My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave DeBow. And have you ever wondered how to turn short-term rentals into a lucrative real estate investment? Well, today, my guest, Kellie Dick from Virginia, has mastered the art and is here to share her secrets to success. Kellie, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's we're gonna touch on this in a bit. The short-term rental space is under attack in Canada, under attack in the United States. We're gonna dig into that a little bit later in the episode. But as everyone always wants to know at every real estate event and every time they're shaking your hand, like, how did you get started in real estate? So tell people the story. How did you get started in the crazy game of real estate?
So I actually got started a long time ago when I was in college. I actually got my real estate license back then, but I actually never ended up doing anything with it just because I was in college and you have to pay all those dues. And so it really wasn't working out. But then it actually came back to me when 3 years ago in the form of real estate investing. So COVID actually happened. And at the time, my husband and I were looking for a place to take our 3 kids just so, where you weren't too crowded, but you still had something to do. So we ended up buying a plot of land called Lake Holiday, Virginia. So we were able to use that land for, they have a beach there. You can access the lake. And so that's kind of where we got started. So we got it started with land, which I thought was kind of a easy foot in to getting into real estate. So that's where we started.
Yeah, not the conventional story. I mean, most people don't go and look for raw land, but COVID really did change the perspective. The Zoom room became a thing where people had an extra, the den became like a studio, much like we're sitting under the bright lights here. Now, did you start into the Airbnb space right out on that property after you're like, okay, we got to go back home. They're going to start schools up and stuff like that. Or, did you put a trailer on it? What's on the land now?
No, so it was actually just an hour away from our house. So we just kind of used it as a recreational lot at first, where we just go there to the lake and kayak and then just hang out at the beach. But then we actually were like, well, we have this plot of land. Let's see if we can build a short-term rental on it. And so that was our first mistake in real estate, where we didn't realize that, not only the counties here, they have different regulations on if you can do short-term rentals, but also the HOA there. We didn't realize that they didn't allow short-term rentals. So we had to pivot and we tried to do a long-term rental on that property or on the land. And then we tried to have a builder come out and look at the land and see if we can build anything. And it basically ended up where we couldn't build anything on that plot of land. So we basically, a year later, we sold it for a profit. And then we moved on to our next investment after that.
Okay, so tell me about the next one.
So the next one, we actually ended up selling our primary home at the time. So I think it was 2021. And we used some of that profit that we made off of that house to buy, to use towards the down payment for our first short-term rental, which was a condo in Snowshoe, West Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Snowshoe is a really big ski resort out there. It's big on the East Coast. So we bought a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo, and that was our first short-term rental that we did.
And so what do you like most about the short-term rental space?
Well, I like the fact that I can still use the condo if I wanted to. It's not just having a long-term rental in there. Also, you definitely can make a lot more money with the short-term rentals than with a long-term rental, but you also have the risk of those. So it was really good in the winter months, right? Everyone's skiing and all that stuff. But then when the summer months came around, it wasn't really booking as much. So you have to figure out how you're going to cover those expenses if you don't have.
Much like
tenants.
having I was talking to a guy in Florida about their seasonality of the snowbird Airbnb business, the realtor and the Keys, and we were talking about it. And he's like, it's great in the wintertime because the weather's great, but to a snowbird, 100 and something degrees Fahrenheit is just too much. They go back to Chicago, or they go back to Seattle. It's not they're not in for the 130 or 120 degrees that it might get up to. So there you have to make the accommodations for that like lull. So it's like you make a bunch of
Right.
money over here, and
Right.
then you got to carry this, let's say a $3 million beachfront thing in
Sure.
Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're going to make some money here in these months, but then you're going to have to carry that mortgage in the other period. So how did
Yeah.
you navigate that kind of seasonality of the condo that you have there?
So one of the good things about Snowshoe was they also had a big mountain biking community. So in the summer times, they did have mountain biking, which helped out a little bit, but we were able to swing it for a while. And then I think that was another mistake. We didn't realize with all the fees that come in with owning a short-term rental. So, especially with Snowshoe, they have like a huge HOA fee that we had to pay. It was like basically the size of our mortgage that we were paying for that. And then also the cleaning fees, the property management fees, the maintenance. So we really weren't accounting for all of that in the beginning. So that was a learning curve. So yeah, I think we were basically just breaking even at the end of the day with that one. But we were a glutton for punishment and we wanted to, we got addicted, right? So I think that's how it is with real estate. You always get addicted to it.
To something, yeah.
Yeah. And we ended up getting a 1-bedroom condo at Snowshoe. And we got that with basically, we took out some equity from the 2-bedroom and we used that for the down payment for the 1-bedroom. So we've had that for a while, but we basically flipped that one in 4 months just because, like I said, we weren't aware, we weren't accounting for all those expenses that were going to come into the play. So learning experience there, but it was a good experience.
And I guess now that we're kind of on the topic, they're under attack. They're under attack by legislation because they believe, and so it's said on the news that Airbnbs are responsible for the increase in rents for regular people. And it's like, I don't know if there's that many, but it's certainly a way for them to position some sort of permitting and some sort of licensing to get these Airbnbs registered and find people who aren't. So how are you navigating the upcoming, or even in some places, the current impositions, as even in this market here, they're giving us a grace period until March, end of March, and then they're doing discounted fees until a certain portion, and then they're going to start fining people. So have you seen that coming in your market? Have you heard about that in other markets that you're participating in?
I haven't seen it in my market. The only thing I know, well, especially where I live in Loudoun County, they obviously tax those businesses a lot higher. So that's how they're making up for. But I can see, sometimes I see where it's really crazy how you can have 2 counties right next to each other and then one won't allow it at all. And then the one next to it's fine with it. So that was just a
It could
learning
even
curve
be
for
the
us.
house across the road where the county line is. It's
Right.
like, oh, you can have an
Exactly.
Airbnb right there.
Yeah.
But that's
But no,
counties and
right.
taxes and things like that. But it certainly can be hard to navigate. So when you're looking at your profitability as you look at these taxes and things like that, what would be some advice that you'd have for someone who's thinking about setting up an Airbnb, and maybe what are some things that that maybe you weren't aware of that you're aware of now that maybe you can shorten someone's learning curve?
Well, I think definitely researching the county that you want the property to be in and then looking on their website and seeing what they do. Also for me, I think a big learning curve for us was, like, I think we shouldn't have basically moved on to the second one so fast. I think it's smart to maybe just hold it for a year and see what comes, because different unexpenses will kind of show up in your mailbox and be like, oh my God, I didn't know how to pay that for that. So that was a learning curve for us. I think we're not going to try to scale as fast as we were trying to before.
Yeah, and certainly people can get a little bit excited with the Airbnb space, especially if you're doing Airbnb arbitrage. Suddenly you've got a handful of units and the bills start coming in. So what does the future look like here going into 2024, 2025? What's the plan?
So we actually, like I said, we sold the 1-bedroom condo at Snowshoe, and then we actually ended up selling the 2-bedroom as well. So right now we're kind of just holding on to that capital to see where we want to reinvest it. We want to reinvest it probably somewhere in Virginia, where I'm a licensed realtor and I can hopefully, save money on those fees with that process. And then I can also find deals a little quicker and even maybe write contracts a little quicker. So that's helpful as well. So right now we're in a holding phase, but we're definitely looking forward to the next investment we can get.
Yeah. So when it comes to real estate investing, you've done, this and that, and being an agent as well. What would you say your secret sauce is? What comes easy to you that other people might find difficult to do?
I don't know. I think I'm good at finding locations and timing the market. I also think, you have to be a little not scared of risk sometimes and just go for
Hmm.
the plunge. I've heard a lot of people where they get that analysis paralysis and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I was lucky enough where we zoned in on Snowshoe because basically we used to go there and we had a great time as a family. So that's kind of why we went with that location. So I think just finding a place that you want to go to, like you said, if it's a short-term rental, you're probably going to want to be there on the off times and enjoy it as well. So
Hmm.
yeah.
So what would you say, with everything you've accomplished and all the things that you've been able to get to this point here, what would you
Mhm.
say your biggest obstacle is these days?
I think finding that next property that's going to cash flow the way we want it to, and then making sure that like everybody else, we're waiting for the rates to come down just a little bit. I mean,
Hmm.
we're not as scared but I think that also factors into the cash flow situation. So
So what are
I
you
think
doing
that.
to fund your deals then? Or is it mostly self-financed? Do you have investors? What does that look like for you guys?
No, so we just have that capital that we're sitting on. That's our only thing right now. So
Self-financed. Yeah.
yeah, like I
So
said,
does
so
the future,
before we just use it like the profits of the sales of stuff that we just kind of
Mhm.
like held on to. So
So
self-finance,
does the
yes.
future incorporate bigger units, 4 units, more capital, or are you just kind of taking it as it comes?
Um, we're taking it as it comes. I think we want to make sure the next one that we get is, like I said, we want to hold on to for a year and just not scale so quickly. So I don't think this next one, I'm not sure if we'd want to do, are you asking if we want to do a multi-unit or which one are you?
Well, what I've been hearing, because I interview people from, earlier I was talking to a guy in Los
Yeah.
Angeles, and the other day I was talking to someone in Tennessee, and what seems to be emerging, and this is just what I'm hearing,
Hmm.
multi-units, people are taking a four, they're having like one or two permanent tenants, one midterm
Right.
tenant, and one short-term tenant in like the better top unit or something like that. And it's able to like diversify their Airbnb so that they're not so subjected to, one unit, one tenant, one permit, one problem. They
Hmm.
can kind of say, well, if that midterm's not doing good, or, make it a short term, or maybe fill it with a long term, and kind of
Right.
have more options and still get, maybe a beachfront or within walking distance to something interesting. So that's kind of what I'm hearing. But I
Hmm.
mean, the truest vacation rental is one where you don't have tenants next to you. You just have your whole family in one building, right?
Yeah. No, I don't think we're ready to dive into the multifamily space just yet. So yeah,
So are you going to continue investing in this like vacation town
definitely.
that
Yeah.
you're in not right now?
So we're next thing, since we did like the whole snow situation, our next one was hopefully like around a lake or around a beach. Because the funny thing is we had that snowshoe con and we don't ski. It's just like it was purely just for like an investment and just going there to hang with our
Hmm.
children. But yeah, we're not into skiing, so we want something that we're all going to enjoy together. So definitely beach or lake or something near water is what we're looking
Hmm.
for.
Yeah, something that, because then you can kind of balance it against the winter stuff and the summer
Right.
stuff, where it's like a 2 season business. So
Yeah.
um has anyone ever approached you to say, hey, like, how can you help me find one? Because you're a real estate agent. So are
Mhm.
people approaching you now to kind of help them navigate the Airbnb space?
I think I have, a couple of friends who see me doing it, so they kind of ask questions about, and I've tried to give them some insight in what I think. But honestly, I think right now, I think a lot of the people are they're scared of the rate, so they're not really going for it. But I'm
So what do you
definitely,
say to someone like, as an investor yourself,
yeah.
or but also a realtor, how do you see the rate situation?
Well, I always like the phrase, it's you're married to the house, but dating the rate or something like that's how it goes. So I'm
Yeah,
always telling them
marry
you
the
can
house,
always,
date the rate.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, you can always refinance later. Um, so I mean, I don't know. It's a trying to just help them out and let them know they are coming down. The rates are coming down. So that's good news. So they probably won't be in the 3% ever again like we had before, but they're coming
Well, you
down.
never know. It could it
Yeah.
could it could sway. I mean, they raised it just as quick, so maybe.
Right. Right.
I mean, I think that was to match the economic slowdown. They're like, okay,
Mhm.
let's give away money, let's make loans practically free. You know, there was like, I can remember people getting like 0.99 mortgages, 5 year or a 3 year fixed at like 1.39 or something. Like it was
Wow.
crazy. So they were, well, I mean, in hindsight, they're gonna now have to refinance because that would have
Uh-huh.
been, let's say they got a mortgage in 2021 and it was a 3 year. Well, surprise, now you have to jump into another position, and you know it is kind of what it is, and we're seeing that across the country where people took big mortgages, they had low rates,
Mhm.
and they're coming back around for the rates and deciding, okay, can I even afford this? So the government's going to have to do something to
Mhm.
ease some of those mortgages. We're seeing some extensions too from 25 to 30s and even
Right.
some 35 and 40s. They're giving like they've got a multi-unit program in Canada now where they're giving away, I think it's a 50-year 5% down if it qualifies. So they're definitely
Mhm.
trying to like work with people to accommodate the rate.
Right.
That being said, it's just more interest. They're like, oh, we'll help you. We'll give you 40 years of interest instead of just 25.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we'll do 40 years. So
Yeah.
um on the real estate agency side, do you regret not having your like doing something with your license over time now that you've come back to it, or where does that play into your investing strategy?
Well, like I said, the reason I got back into it is because I was like, well, I had it before. And then now that I got into the investing side first, and that was basically like our first area where we actually made a profit off of stuff. So I was like, I think I want to get back into it. I got it before, and then I can basically, search our MLS faster, go look at houses faster, write the contracts faster. So that
Mm-hmm.
was mainly the reason I do it. And then I also, I'm hopeful I can help out people in our community find homes and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and it's always fun to make a little bit of commission selling houses. Why not, right? It's a
yeah,
living.
absolutely. And use that money for down payments on my own investment. So yeah.
Well, I mean, there's always the two things. I'm of the school thought of it's like the whole grape or half a watermelon. You can do so much with your own money, and
Right.
eventually you'll get locked into your investments, and then you have to decide, okay, do I want to start partnering with people and
Right.
bringing capital to the table and getting comfortable using other people's money, because ultimately so too is your mortgage. That's just a
Mhm.
bank, is other people's money. So becoming comfortable with that is usually that scaling point. The other thing people are doing, if what you're saying is it right now that you're looking for the right property or the financing for the correct property? Which one would you say is more along the lines?
Looking for the right one.
Yeah, because a lot of people in this current interest rate are doing creative financing strategies to get
Mhm.
into the property without necessarily transacting that mortgage and getting that rate.
Right.
They're buying old rates and carrying them to the end of the note's term and
Mhm.
dealing with the lower interest rate. Maybe they'll get a couple more years out of it to kind of steady over the current, 5, 6, 7, 8%, whatever it might be from, depending
Right.
on what the lending institution gives you. So, um, yeah, that's, with looking for the right deal,
Mhm.
do you typically go deal first in that you find the deal and then go to the bank and get financing, or do you kind of get pre-approved and then go looking?
Well, I kind of already know what our range is, but since I've done it before with the snowshoe stuff, so I kind of already
Mhm.
know what we're looking for in terms of that. So right now it's kind of just finding the right location, house with the budget that we probably already know we can do. So,
So with the Airbnb space, what would you say are some things that make the right location?
well, definitely has to have something around that people can do. So I know where we live right now, we have a lot of wineries and breweries that, so basically where we live, we're in Northern Virginia. So it's an hour away from DC. So you find a lot of people from DC coming out here to relax. And then, so
Mhm.
we have the breweries, the wineries, we have the river, Shenandoah River, that you can kayak down. So just basically you want to have stuff that people can do and enjoy
Mhm.
themselves. So that's the big thing.
Yeah, I remember driving driving through, and I was like, it changes a lot. Like when you go from the northern part of the state down to Washington and then continue down
Right.
down the coast,
Mhm.
the trees change, the climate changes very drastically over that period. But I do remember it was like, it was probably right about there. I was like, you know what? America did get the best land. Like they got the best land, due to Donald Trump. We got the best land. Because it is really so diverse, and you do have like great recreational land along the coast. But even when we went driving, I can't remember, some very like hilly mountainous area coming back from Florida. I think we were going a little bit more west because I think we went somewhere near Atlanta. There's some like hills and stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is amazing. Like, and it was the fall
Uh-huh.
for that. November for Canada
Right.
is like the middle of winter, but the fall here, the fall in Virginia, and we were driving through and I was like, this is amazing. No wonder people
Mhm.
drive out to watch the leaves change and things like
That's
that.
right.
So,
Yeah.
what would you say to someone who is thinking about whether they're going to have a house or a condo? Do you find that renting the condo, like what are some challenges that come along with that? Because obviously you have to get into that building and access. It's a shared buildings in some cases. So how does that work?
So the condo that we had, it was a resort area, so it was easy for them to get in. They had actually they installed the electronic keypad for the doors for them to get in, so that's how we would get them in. But I think with the condo, it's obviously a little bit easier because you don't have any maintenance on the outside of the house. But then you have the higher HOA fees and all that stuff. Whereas when we plan on getting a single family home, we're going to have to consider the outside maintenance as well, and who's going to be doing all that stuff if we're not going to be
Yeah,
there to do it.
yard maintenance and things like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So, if people want to connect with you as far as like investing with you, or they want your advice as to what to buy or where to buy it, how
Mhm.
do they connect with you? What should they do? How do they find you?
So my Instagram handle is at Kellie Dick _real estate. And then Kelly is spelled KELLIE. And then on the investment side, my business email is ravenrocksinvest@gmail.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by. And yeah, until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.